Well, we are so thrilled today because we are interviewing Ann Cavoukian, and Ann is an amazing woman. I am so thrilled because I got to have her on my show many times. What's the matter with this? Do you see this is like it's like a delay? Hmm.
Just a little. You sound fine.
Yeah, but it looks weird. I don't know why it's doing that. You talk to me.
Sure. It's a pleasure to be doing this with you.
Yeah. So I don't know why it's a little bit delayed. That's bizarre. Oh, well, we're going to do it anyway.
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it. But all of a sudden I saw myself, I looked at myself. So I have to remember to look at the camera because if I look at you,
right,
then I'm not looking, it looks like I'm looking weird, right? So I have to remember. So I'm going to just cancel this and start at 26 again. Another drink. It's been a long day already for you, I'm sure, and me too. Okay. We are so thrilled today that we are going to have a wonderful interview with Ann Cavoukian, who happens to be an amazing woman, and I just admire her so much. I was so thrilled to get to actually meet her on several occasions, and she even made me a privacy ambassador to Ontario, Canada, which was such an exciting thing. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Cavoukian. Ann is actually recognized all over the world as one of the leading privacy experts. She served an unprecedented 3 terms as the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, Canada. And there she created, with her brilliance, the Privacy by Design, which is a framework that seeks to proactively embed privacy into the design and specifications of information technologies. And this, by doing that, it is really helping us all to have more privacy. So let me just, there's so much more about her, but I just want to say that now, after working in that capacity for Ontario, Canada, she now is the executive director of the Global Privacy and Security by Design Center in Canada. She is the author of 2 books and myriad articles that I've read, so many of them, and have been so in awe of her. She's the author of 2 books. One is called The Privacy Payoff: How Successful Businesses Build Customer Trust, and she wrote that with Tyler Hamilton. And the other book is Who Knows? Safeguarding Your Privacy in a Network World, and that's with Don Capscott. So she is has a PhD. She's brilliant. And she's doing such great work in the world, and I am so thrilled to get to see you again on Zoom. I miss seeing you. We were both very involved in the International Association of Privacy Professionals, and I just haven't been for a while, so I'm so excited to see you. You're beautiful inside. So,
thank you so much, Marie. You're far too kind.
Oh, I am not. I'm just telling the truth. So, Ann, first of all, tell us a little bit about what you do in your new position.
So the whole point of this new center that I've created, I want people to understand that you have to embrace privacy and security by design. You can't view it as a zero-sum game, privacy versus security or privacy versus data utility. It can't be a win-lose. You have to make it a win-win with doubly enabling positive gains. That's why I've done this Global Privacy and Security by Design Center, to promote the idea that you can do both. It can't be one versus the other. It's always privacy that loses whenever it's one versus the other. And in my world, that doesn't work. But it's much better if you have multiple positive gains. It's better for business. It's better for individuals.
Right. It's a value added for businesses. So for an audience that is not familiar with privacy that much, and they think, well, it's dead anyway, why is privacy so important?
Let me make it very clear. Privacy is not dead. It is, in fact, is getting a second life. Privacy forms the foundation of our freedom. You cannot have free and open societies, free and democratic societies, without a solid foundation of privacy. And privacy relates to personal control. It's not about secrecy. It's about an individual being able to control the uses of his or her personal information. You know, I always tell people, privacy is not a religion. You want to give away your information? Be my guest.
Right.
You make that decision to do so. When you have privacy embedded into operations, it leads to blue sky thinking. People don't have to worry about looking over their shoulder, who's looking at what. You don't have to worry about surveillance. You can imagine wonderful, new, innovative ideas. Privacy breeds innovation and prosperity. Creativity thrives when you have a world where people have private spaces. So it's a multiple win for both business, individuals, society.
And you know, it seems to me that if we don't have privacy, we really lose our freedom and liberty, right?
Absolutely.
And I
we
know
know
Canada
this.
and the United States share that value of freedom and liberty. We're not living in China or Korea, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you look at China now with the social credit scores, there's no freedom whatsoever. It's total surveillance. To me, it's a nightmare. No one in Canada or the United States would want to live in that kind of scenario.
No, and I should say how, for people who are listening, that Ann's creativity has really spread throughout the world. And in the United States, the Federal Trade Commission took on that privacy by design. And so, you know, for people to understand, and I always love your analogy about if you build, well, I think this came from you, but I've used it many times, that if you build a house without air conditioning, and then you try to build it in later, it's a mess, right? It doesn't work right. You have all sorts of problems. But when you're building the house, if you build into the architecture of the house, all of the vents, all of the things, then it works beautifully and it's so much easier. So I think
exactly.
if you don't understand it, it makes more sense, right?
Totally. If it's seamlessly integrated into your operations, then privacy becomes an essential component of what you're doing. You don't have to worry about it afterwards as an afterthought. It works so much better. Just as you gave that example with the air conditioning in the house, if it's embedded proactively as an essential component of the house building. Privacy is the same way. If you embed it into the design of your operations, bake it into your data architecture, into your code, it will be present seamlessly. You don't have to worry about it.
Right. And then also by doing that, you're saving yourself of possibly all sorts of problems with the privacy commissioners or the Federal Trade Commission or a lawsuit, right? Because
absolutely.
You've already thought about it. You've already taken that, just like you think about other aspects of it. You've built it in. And I think
exactly. It's a model of prevention. You prevent the harms from arising so you don't have to deal with the cost of the repercussions when the data breaches happen. You can avoid them.
Exactly. So, you know, I think people would be interested to know what it was like to be a privacy commissioner and how is that different from being, you know, involved in the Federal Trade Commission, because you had a lot more power in different ways.
Yes, I was very fortunate. Being the Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, Canada, I had what was called order-making power, which meant that if I found that an organization was in breach of the privacy law, I could order them to take corrective action. I was very fortunate because if I didn't have order-making power, I couldn't make people do things. However, let me be clear, because I had the power, I rarely used it because the organizations I dealt with, the government departments, they knew I had it. So they were motivated to work with me and we reached informal resolutions the majority of the time. So it's like the stick is there, but I'd much rather use the carrot.
Exactly. And you're the type of person that is so engaging and warm and friendly, and you're such a great mediator. And I know mediators because I train them and I am one. That you can mediate between the parties, you know, between whoever is hurt by whatever they're doing and the company, and create a resolution, which, you know, I really think is the best way, you know, always the best.
Agreed.
Rather than using the hammer or the stick. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I'd much rather work cooperatively with the organization and mediate an informal resolution that we're both agreeable to. Much better resolution.
And then they're committed to it too, right?
Yes, exactly. They buy into it.
And then once they know that they got a deal, they start to recognize really the benefits of privacy. It's a value added to their company. And
Exactly.
it makes them look good, and they can use that as a marketing tool. And,
I couldn't
I do
agree
that
more.
even in my own office. I tell them how many, most attorneys they don't even encrypt stuff. It would make you go nuts, Ann, if you saw what I see.
Oh, I believe it.
Not encrypting tax returns, not encrypting 1099s, things like that. It just, So everything I do with my clients, I teach them encryption. They have an encryption.
Oh, wonderful.
For each case. So, I tell them, okay, you can go to any media you want, but I'm going to get your financial information. I'm going to safeguard it. This is what I do. This is a value added. Go to anyone you want, but you're not going to get this because most of them don't even know how to do it. So, yeah, I think it is a value added. And I think that those businesses driving by listening to us today, or if anybody's, watching us on Zoom, think about it. This is going to make you unique, at least at this point. And it's also going to protect you, right?
Absolutely. I always say to companies, you will gain a competitive advantage by embedding privacy by design proactively into your operations.
Right.
You will save a boatload of money because when the data breaches, they're resulting in not just lawsuits, but class action lawsuits. They cost millions upon millions. You can avoid that.
And what about the, Larry Poneman has talked about the cost of embarrassment, right? And
absolutely
thinking that you don't care about them as consumers. So
exactly,
costs beyond just the cost you pay to the privacy commissioners or the Federal Trade Commission lawsuits, the cost of really having that, that dark spot on you.
The cost to your brand, the cost to your reputation may be irreparable. It is so harmful. So get smart, lead with this, and avoid all the harms.
Yes. And they can find privacy by design all over the place. A lot of it is written by you, but even, the Federal Trade Commission has really tagged on to what you've done. I don't know how many times they give you credit, but you are the mother of privacy by design.
That's right. I don't have any other children, so I have privacy by design as my child.
Yes,
but
you have children all over the world with your privacy by design.
The FTC embraced it many years ago. Now it's included in the new law that came into effect last year in the European Union, the General Data Protection Regulation. It actually includes my privacy by design and privacy as the default. So there's so much interest in this worldwide, and people are coming to me now to get certified for privacy by design.
Yes. And the new California Consumer Privacy also picked up on the GDPR.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you're going to be a saint by the time you leave this planet.
I thank you for that. We'll see.
But it won't be for a really long time. So you'll, I should tell my audience too, I didn't even read all the awards that you have, but if you go to www.privacypiracy.org, you'll see Ann's very long bio and see all of the accolades and all of the awards, and she's just so modest and so cute that you just won't see it, but she is a dynamo, absolute dynamo.
Thank you.
You were talking before, Ann, about surveillance, and you have to worry about being in a surveillance society. So, how can we curb that? I was just in London a couple months ago. My daughter was living there, and so, of course, I had to go to Scotland and London. And everywhere I looked, there were cameras looking at me
everywhere.
In
London. The good news is that people and government departments are now finally objecting to facial recognition. For example, in California, Oakland, and this other place in Massachusetts and San Francisco, they have ruled against facial recognition. They said basically, we will not allow government departments to use facial recognition for cameras because it is so invasive of privacy. So it's beginning, the word is beginning to get out. And you say, even with jurisdictions that have have cameras and capture facial images, I always tell them, at least encrypt the video feed.
Yes.
Your cameras are collecting information. If you encrypt the video feed, then not anyone can have access to it or do snooping. Like in the UK, in London, etc. It was documented years ago that the people manning the cameras were following beautiful women around. I'm not kidding. They were doing that.
Talk about a privacy invasion and stalking.
It's so stupid. They're stalking these beautiful women instead of using it for the purposes intended. But if the video feed is encrypted, they can't do that. And if there's a legitimate law enforcement need, the police have probable cause, you can get a warrant and you can decrypt it.
Right.
Everything is doable, but we have to protect the data.
Yes. And you know what I worry about too? I worry about if it's not encrypted, somehow them capturing it, copying it, and putting you in a place that you shouldn't be, or stealing your identity and saying, this is me, you know? And so, you know, the criminals are so brilliant. Unfortunately, they're not using it, their creativity for the best. But, you know, as much as I've dealt with identity theft victims, I can tell you that just scares the heck out of me. If it's not encrypted, then they're going to be able to use it in another way. And of course, like what you were talking about, use it to stalk people or go after people. It could be a real
It's terrible. And like you said, when I was commissioner, so many victims of identity theft came to me for help. And it's heartbreaking. It can ruin your life until you clear your name. That can take years. So I tell people to be so careful of their facial image.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like so many things that I guess I should ask you now. I mean, there's so much beyond my control and your control personally that, you know, my information is everywhere. You know, I mean, what am I going to do? Go live underground and not use my credit card? And you know, I mean, I get cash back and I get miles and, you know, there's all these benefits of use.
Of course.
But there's tracking. How do we protect ourselves?
One of the things that is happening now, and you'll see it in the next few years especially, there's a movement away from centralized sort of honeypots of information that the Googles and Facebooks have. When you have centralized data collection by a company, they have total control over your information. They can share with third parties without your consent. They can do anything with it. Last year, Tim Berners-Lee, who created the World Wide Web, he came out and he said he was devastated with what he had created, which was a centralized honeypot of surveillance. He was horrified at that. And he said, I'm changing the model to a decentralized model. I think he's calling it solid. But the point is more and more groups are now going to decentralized pockets of information so that your personal information could reside in a secure enclave in the cloud under your personal control. You decide who you want to share it with, who you want to disclose it to. This is going to be increasing, so stay tuned for that.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I don't know if that's going to come across really well with the companies in the United States, but
we're working on it.
Yeah, because our federal, well, first of all, under this administration, they really would like to get rid of the Consumer Protection Agency, which was there to really help consumers. So that is losing a lot of the power that it was getting.
Yes.
The Federal Trade Commission obviously is, you know, again, appointed by this administration that is not consumer friendly as much as previous administrations. And so, you know, I hate to say I don't have hope, but I always
can't give up hope.
I have to have hope, but I've been disappointed with that to a great extent.
You know, Marie, you know that I tweet every morning. I tweet the latest stories of the day, and invariably, at least one person tweets back and they say, you know, lady, give it up. Privacy is dead. That ship has sailed. And I say, you give it up. Get another ship. We can always, you never give up.
Yes.
So imagine.
Creative, right?
Yes. I mean, imagine if at the height of the Third Reich, the Stasi Germany, that they just gave up. You don't do that. You work like hell to restore freedom, and we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if people say privacy is dead, I don't think so. What do you think about with the generations? Like I have a son who's, you know, I'm a baby boomer, but there's all these, but my daughter's a millennial, and what's the one after that? Who knows?
Gen Z. There's Gen Z and
Gen X. He's
X. Then Gen Z.
Yeah. And I'm noticing that they are getting more creative and more careful about privacy.
Yes.
So I think it's like the baby boomers who are afraid like me, you know, but we're using Facebook and we're using Instagram. And then you've got the millennials who are starting to worry. And so what do you think about that? Because I think, you know, it's just amazing to me what's going on.
I totally agree with you. And in fact, Gen X and Gen Z, they are even stronger in their pursuit of privacy. It's such a myth that young people don't care about privacy. They care deeply about privacy. It may look different from what you and I would consider important because they don't have economic interests yet. They're just starting out. But boy, do they know how to protect their information, guard it from their parents, for example. I mean, it's important.
Right.
But it's important to them. Then they're born digital. They know how to protect their data. They know how to encrypt. So I have great faith in the younger generations and the protection of their data.
Yeah. I just worry about them, you know, with the sexting and the bullying.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we've got the good and the bad, right? And I think that's kind of scary because it's just the information overload is just amazing. Like you and I had some fun with Zoom, right?
Yes, yes. How do you work?
You know, sometimes it's the blind leading the blind or what.
Yes.
But yeah, it's so much to keep up with. And it's so
Absolutely.
much to try to protect your privacy, your security, your financial assets. It's, you know, I mean, multi-factor. I have to use multi-factor. I use LastPass, you know, because I can't.
But stay tuned.
Passwords, and God forbid something happens with LastPass.
Wonderful, wonderful new tools. Wonderful new tools are coming. I'm working with an organization. They're creating something called My Identity Bank. It's all about how you will be in control of your identity completely. It will reside in a secure enclave in the cloud, totally under your control, and identity be very strongly protected. And you'll be able to use it very easily to find out, you know, almost as a memory aid. What was I doing last week? I want to know who I met with on such and such a date. Oh, what about doctor's appointments? I need to schedule another appointment. When was my last appointment? It's going to be a wonderful personal digital assistant. So stay tuned.
Well, I use my Outlook for that, but I do like the idea of having a secure place for all my stuff, you know. So
yes.
You know, I get sick, my son or my husband can go
yes.
here, or my daughter, and they can get access to everything. Because right now I'm just all over the place, right?
Of course.
That always worries. I'm going to be interviewing an estate planning attorney who's going to talk about your digital assets for your inheritance and other.
Right.
That's a whole new field as well. Yeah.
Totally.
You brought up Facebook, and I brought it up a minute ago. So let's talk a little bit about what's happened with Facebook, why they were signed, what's going on, and then of course now they want to do that new kind of monetary thing. So tell me your thoughts on that.
So first of all, I was delighted. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, last week fined them $5 billion US. That's the largest fine that's ever been levied. And almost even more important than that, the backlash against Facebook in terms of all the personal information that it's been disclosing without consent, there's a real backlash against that. You know, the California legislation is coming out, the GDPR. So all of a sudden, Mark Zuckerberg is saying, oh, we're all for privacy. We're going to be sort of giving you much greater control over your information. And, you know, believe it or not. But the point is, he's now talking that talk. So that in itself is an indication that the whole issue with Cambridge Analytica and all the other privacy breaches is coming back, and they're doing something about it. They have something called private by design now.
Yeah, and a lot of that is due to you, but I mean, especially now that they're getting these large punitive, you know,
yes,
that they have to pay, I think then they're, oh, now we're going to be privacy, but you know, whatever works, right?
Exactly. And you know, there has never been as great a concern on the part of the public as there is now for privacy. In the last 2 years, all of the public opinion polls, Pew Research, Internet, etc., they've come in at the 90 percentile for concern for privacy. 90% of those surveyed, very concerned for privacy. 92% very concerned about loss of control over their personal data. Yes. So everyone is saying, wow, there's such a trust deficit. We have to work with consumers and the public to regain trust and ensure that they can have some control over their information.
Yes, perfect. Well, we have about a minute and a half left. I just wanted to know if you want to give any advice to business. Well, right now we have businesses that drive by. We have consumers that are listening on the radio or on, you know, iTunes, whatever. Do you have a couple pieces of advice to share with us?
Sure. For businesses, Get over the belief that privacy somehow stifles innovation. It does the exact opposite. Privacy breeds creativity, innovation, prosperity. You will gain a competitive advantage. You will keep the customers you will have, and you will attract new opportunity. So get smart and embed privacy by design into your operations.
Yes.
For individuals, one tip I always give people, in terms of your search engine, use DuckDuckGo. It's fabulous.
Say that again.
It's duck, the word duck twice, duck, duck, go, literally. That's what it's called. It is an amazing search engine. They don't do anything to track you. You won't get advertisements, no marketing. It's totally private and it's amazing.
Wonderful. Okay, I want you to give your website.
Of course.
So people can go and just tell us for a minute, like for a half a minute, what can we find at your website?
So if you go to my website, it's GPS, S as in Sam, GPSbyDesignCenter.com. And what you'll find there is ways where privacy and security can work together. Privacy and data utility. Privacy and, never privacy versus. Get rid of the zero-sum mindset of one versus the other, win, lose, either or. That was so yesterday. You want to have multiple positive gains, and that's what I want to give you.
Well, you are wonderful. I'm sure that everybody who just heard you also feels that way. I had lots more questions that I could ask you, but we're out of time. So obviously,
next time,
when you come back. That's
okay, it'll be my pleasure. Thank you so
and
much.
also,
Mary.
so, say your website once more.
GPSbyDesignCenter.com.
Okay, and center is spelled C-E-N-T.
C-E-N-T-R-E, because I'm Canadian. So.
Yes, that's what I wanted to make sure that we said.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Murray.
We spell it wrong or you spell it wrong. Somebody spells it wrong. All right.
Many thanks.
Also find her picture, her bio, and we link to her website at privacypiracy.org. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will have you back again soon.
It was my pleasure, as always. Thank you.
Thank you.